is Joy News Prime.
You're welcome to Joy News Prime right here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. The bulletin is available across Europe on ABN television. My name is Israel Laye. In this edition, President Mahama removes Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing from list of cabinet ministers to satisfy constitutional clause limiting number of cabinet ministers to 19. New Patriotic Party flag bearer to lead demonstration against worsening electricity prices. Meanwhile, the Energy Ministry is being accused of diverting funds meant for a rural electrification project on luxury vehicles. Mövenpick Ambassador Hotel accused of discriminatory policy against women, and residents of Ashoman, a suburb here in Accra, benefit from a private initiative to improve roads in their community. We also have business, sports and international news all coming up, so do stay tuned. The ranking member on the Legal, Constitutional and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Joseph Wusu, says the appointment of Baba Kamara as National Security Advisor demonstrates President Mahama's lack of respect for good governance and commitment to fighting corruption. Baba Kamara, who is being investigated by the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice over his alleged role in a bribery scandal involving the UK-based engineering firm Maybe and Johnson, was on Monday appointed to advise the president on national security matters. Joseph Wusu says the president must wait for the outcome of the case before proceeding with the appointment.
Because Sharaj's investigation is in abeyance, and we are not sure when they are concluding, they are taking advantage of the no action to perpetuate impunity. I mean, all persons who are being investigated are often asked to stand aside. In the case of this gentleman, ever since the matter broke, he was Ghana's ambassador to UK. He was not recalled. He stayed, to Nigeria. He was not recalled. He stayed on through to the end. And then he was made a presidential staffer. What this means, in my view, is that notwithstanding all the talks about anti-corruption fighting, good governance, this president is prepared to look good governance in the face and slap it. Damn the consequences. I want him to work for me, even if he is corrupt, even if he is accused of bribery, even if Sharaj is investigating him. I'm prepared to take him on to work for me.
But his colleague on the committee, George Lowe, says the president acted well within his right.
I don't want to sound rude, but I wonder if my colleagues have been, or whoever, all the people shouting about this have been asleep all these years. What has changed? Baba Kamara has been a presidential staffer and senior advisor to the president. He's only now made a national security advisor. In both capacities, he advises the president. So if it was good for him to have acted as a special advisor to the president, what has changed? He has always been a presidential staffer, appointed, sent to the Council of State, approved. So, President technically has only redesignated him. He has not even reappointed him into a new position. He's only redesignated him. He's always been a presidential advisor. This time, he's supposed to be advising the president on security.
New Patriotic Party flag bearer Nana Akufo-Addo will Wednesday join thousands of party faithful and sympathizers on the demonstration to protest the worsening power crisis. The demonstration, dubbed Wongbo, meaning we are dying, is scheduled to start at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle and end at the Accra Heart of Oak Park.
The General Secretary of the Opposition New Patriotic Party, NPP, Kwabena Ejapong, in a news conference at the party's headquarters stated the executives of the party are all set and ready for their peaceful demonstration.
Since we made the announcement last week, there has been heightened anxiety, and people from all walks of life have indicated their intention to turn out in their thousands tomorrow to express their justifiable frustrations at the continuing inability of the Mahama administration to resolve the power situation in our country. It's quite clear that this is a government that has shown clear insensitivity and an uncaring attitude and a lot of incompetence in the handling of the power sector and the general economy.
The General Secretary explained that government has failed in solving the power crisis facing the country.
Between 2009 and 2014, in that first 6 years, this government has borrowed close to $29 billion, more than 4 times what the NPP borrowed in 8 years. So they've had resources available to them. They've had a windfall of better prices for our major exports like gold, like cocoa. So if you compare the receipts they've had in 6 years to what the NPP had in 8 years, nowhere close. And then no government has had revenue from oil. So they have no reason. If they had been prudently managing the finances of our country, this problem shouldn't arise. So it's downright financial indiscipline that has brought us where we are.
A report by the Auditor General on the appropriation of monies meant for a rural electrification project has criticized the way the funds were expended by the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. The ministry is accused, among others, of diverting some $1.7 million meant for the rural electrification project on luxury vehicles. The amount, the equivalent of 5.584 million cedis at the current exchange rate, are said to have been spent on 38 luxury vehicles when there was no budgetary provision for the purchases. The findings contained in an audit report presented to Parliament by the Auditor General Richard Quartey explains that the vehicles were bought from money meant for extending electricity to 1,200 communities under the multi-donor budgetary support program between 2010 and 2012. The report also criticized the procurement process, adding that although Parliament gave approval to the turnkey arrangement through a resolution, the vehicles and office equipment were not in the proposal which was sent to Parliament for approval. The Auditor General stated in his report that using project funds to purchase items not budgeted in the contract could reduce the number of communities that would benefit from the extension of electricity, inflate the costs of the electricity project to include items that were not directly used for the project, thereby affecting cost planning of similar projects in the future, be an incentive for officials likely to benefit from such practices to quickly approve sole source procurement without in-depth analysis of the proposal, and motivate officials in other ministries, departments, and agencies to devise similar strategies to bypass laid-down regulations and make frivolous spending. The report concluded by stating that although the ministry asserted that the vehicles were for supervision and should be of American make, luxury vehicles, examples of 570 and luxury 300 models, Chrysler 300 models, are too expensive and luxurious for monitoring the project. The auditors recommended that Parliament must take strong exception to ministries, departments and agencies acquiring assets with project funds under international contracts for which those assets were not originally included in project budgets and or did not seek parliamentary approval. Now, responding to the audit queries, the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum explained that the ministry bought the vehicles and equipment with money from the loan facility to ensure the project is delivered on time. According to the ministry, they did not ask government for funds directly because that would have gone through a long process. The ministry also explained that the type of vehicles the ministry acquired depended on the terms of the loan facility. As this project was procured through an American facility, the vehicles had to be purchased from the American market. The ministry further explained that the Lexus is in the same range as a Land Cruiser, and that is why they bought it for the minister to use for site visits. Right, so there's been some reaction from a member of parliament regarding this expenditure by the Ministry of Energy. Now, Kweku Kwating believes that the president must act immediately on the report.
The minister that the report says was supposed to use one of the luxury cars for the purposes of visiting the project sites has 3 4-wheel drives for his use in the ministry. He couldn't have used any of these. So that a new luxury car had to be bought for the minister for the purposes of monitoring. Look, the copy has come to Parliament now, but the copy has also gone to the presidency. We ought to be asking the presidency, is he going to look on this, or he's going to punish people and send a signal across that the state in which we find the country's finances right now cannot accommodate this kind of looting. If the president doesn't act, and once we are having difficulty buying crude oil to power generators so that ordinary people can have electricity to run their businesses, if people will still take money like this and the president will not act, then it demonstrates the debt to which we have sunk. This is very embarrassing, but it's not just embarrassing. It is unfortunate that people in government should be so insensitive to the state in which we find the country's finances.
So what, Kwating, you are suggesting that the president should take action over this and sanction everybody who has been implicated in this excessive spending?
Absolutely, absolutely. But in addition, given that the minister has made expenditures outside approval given by Parliament, I think Parliament should also invite the minister to explain why he has so misconducted the country's finances. But more importantly, as I indicated, the president must signal that this kind of looting will not be accepted in Ghana today at the time we cannot buy crude oil to provide power for our people.
The Ghana operations of hotel chain Movenpick Ambassador has come in for criticism for a policy that requires women visiting its main hangout bar to be accompanied by at least one man or be thrown out. A frontline staff of the facility has told Joy News the policy is a security measure. But 5 women who were thrown out by the hotel security a week ago because there was no man accompanying them want the hotel to be taking on. Ivy Jane Fee has more.
The 5 women, all colleagues at a health facility here in Accra, says they went to the plush Movenpick sometime last week to celebrate the birthday of a colleague. They, however, told Joy News the hotel security told them women are not allowed into the main hangout bar unaccompanied by a man. Birthday girl Dr. Hajat Mohammed is strongly offended by the incident.
I was too shocked to even ask them for a reason. I was like, I've been coming here, so why from this new rule? Because that wasn't the rule before. Then all of a sudden, they tell us that we need a meal. Even if it is 1 meal, they will let us go in. We didn't come with a man.
Saudi Crown Prince Al Walid bin Talal Abdulaziz Al Saad, who is known to own the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel and was on hand to inaugurate it in 2011, is said to wield a lot of influence on how it is run. Another one of the victims of this supposed policy, Dr. Catherine Atto, believes it may be an extension of similar policies in Saudi Arabia, where women are barred from traveling to certain places alone unless they have male escorts. She's, however, vowed not to ever visit the hotel again because of the policy.
I think it's just wrong. How can I be refused into a place just because I'm a woman? It's just wrong on every count. So no. And I wouldn't encourage anyone else to go to such a place. I'm sorry.
The hotel would not comment on the matter at the time of our visit, but asked for all inquiries to be emailed. The email with a set of questions has since been sent.
Our unofficial checks regarding this policy at Movenpick Ambassador indicates it was introduced to check the harassment of the hotel's guests by some call girls who frequent the hangout bar to solicit clientele. Meanwhile, the Ghana Tourism Authority is investigating the alleged case of discrimination against the women at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel. An official with the authority, Samson Donko, says managers of the hotel and one of the ladies involved in the incident have been invited to assist in investigations. He says the GTA will take appropriate action when it has the full facts of the case. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more stories. To stay tuned. Now, the Minister of Water, Resources, Works and Housing will no longer sit in President Mohammed's cabinet following a reconstitution of the body. The recently appointed Power Minister replaces him to satisfy the constitutional clause that the number of ministers making up the cabinet not exceed 19. Speaker of Parliament, Ododo Ajaho, notified MPs about the changes in a move that should hopefully bring closure to suggestions the President had violated that particular clause in the Constitution.
Member of Parliament for Ifutu in the Central Region, Alexander Kwamena Afenyo-Markins, brought the issue to the attention of the House 2 weeks ago, citing a compilation of the list in the official parliamentary report, which pegged the number at 20. He argued the President was in violation of the Constitution, which places a ceiling on the number of cabinet ministers at 19. Debate on the matter was subsequently deferred to allow for consultation with the Presidency on the matter. The new list, released by the Speaker, names the other portfolios included in Cabinet as Finance, Foreign Affairs, Defence, Petroleum, Interior, Trade and Industry, Attorney General, Roads, Food and Agriculture, Lands and Natural Resources, Local Government, Health, Education, Transport, Power, Environment, Gender and the Communication Ministry. But Member of Parliament for Menchia South, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, questioned the source of the communication and why it did not come under an executive instrument.
I inform members. I chose my words carefully. I did not read the communication. I'm informed. It's an information the House needs and I'm informed them. So I chose my words carefully. I'm informing the House as to those who constitute the cabinet. I did not read any communication.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The first one I read about absence from Ghana, I read communication and I indicated who signed that communication.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, you are right. Mr. Speaker, you are right. But, Mr. Speaker, still the principle holds.
At this point, you are out of order.
Oh, a cabinet minister gets a higher salary than a non-cabinet minister. So we wanted to know, in this designation that you have been informed, that you are also passing information. In our study of the Speaker, information comes only through you. Information. No. So if we happen to know the person who signed, it might hold or it might not hold.
Honourable member,
if a non-cabinet minister writes to you and informs you,
Honourable member, the communication was addressed to the clerk to Parliament.
Not even the Speaker.
No, it is done. That is why I did not read it.
Sitting continues Wednesday.
Experts say the government of Ghana should consider a backup plan to go ahead with its planned migration from the analog TV signals to digital. Chinese company StarTimes is suing the government of Ghana for the cancellation of a contract it had to provide digital terrestrial television network for Ghana. There have been general concerns that the case could affect Ghana's migration to digital television and that we might miss the International Telecommunications Union deadline of June 2015, set for all countries to migrate from analog to digital television broadcasting. But head of engineering here at Multi TV, Edwin Annan, believes government can put in place an alternate plan to ensure continuity in the migration process. He spoke on today's Big Story.
Definitely, as they thought about this program, there should definitely be a backup plan. Should something go wrong, how would they mitigate that situation? So they were supposed to provide a platform, a technology platform that content providers will put their content on. They will rebroadcast in a format called T2. That's the second generation of a kind of transmission that you maximize the use of the bandwidth you are using. With a digital terrestrial channel, your boss can receive and can transmit. So, for example, a station can decide to check what his viewers are watching. So the kind of set-top boxes that will be in the trade will have that capacity to transmit signal back to that station to know
some form of feedback.
Feedback, exactly. Right. To know what his viewers are watching. So in that case, you can test your content. You know where to put your money. Multi TV is a digital platform. The medium is over satellite. That is one.
That is one format.
That's one format. Terrestrial, that is over terrestrial link, is another format.
So that is the format which the StarTimes were contracted to provide Ghana.
Exactly, but definitely there would have been the combination of the two.
Students at Pina Senior High School in the Lambusi Kani district of the Upper West region have expressed fear about a possible outbreak of cerebrospinal meningitis disease at the school. The poorly ventilated dormitories students occupy are congested, forcing them to sleep on a first-come, first-served basis. Due to the congestion, there is no space for their bags as they are left outside at the mercy of the weather. Upper West Regional correspondent visited the school and our reports.
Pina Senior High School was established 24 years ago as a mixed school with less than 100 students. It now has a student population of 1,770. Even though the population of the school over the years has been increasing, it however failed to match up with the infrastructural needs of the students. The school has no dining hall. The computer science laboratory has now been partially converted to a dining hall for first and second years, whilst the final year students, numbering 257, are moved to the open and beneath neem trees. The assistant senior prefect of the school, Mayi Divine, spoke about the challenges involved in eating in the open.
The harmattan season is always a difficulty when we want to eat. The wind blows a lot of dirt into our food, and sometimes some food like the gari and beans, the gari also is always on top of the pan, and then a lot of wind destroys the food, and that's some kind of challenge. And inside too, the place is so congested. All the students can't enter and then eat well, so it's always a challenge facing Pina Senior High.
A more worrying development is the congestion at the various dormitories. Due to that, their bags and other educational materials are left at the mercy of the weather. The girls are now 60 in the room instead of the 40. A final year female student of the school, Bayu Benedicta, spoke about life at the dormitories during the night.
The rooms, the people there are too many that the beds are not sufficient for all of us to be there. Some are flooring, and the beds too are not strong, durable enough for us to sleep on. Normally, in the room, we're supposed to be 40, but like we are more than 40 as at now. As I speak, I can best say 60-something are inside this room as I speak now. The place is always congested that you don't have that space to place your books. Even how to read is always a problem because it's congested that everybody is challenging, looking for places to sleep. So when it's in the night time, the place is always knowing the first come, first serve as to how you are going to sleep on your bed. So during the evening time, it's always a problem because you can't have private studies on your own.
They expressed fears over a possible outbreak of the cerebrospinal meningitis, CSM, due to the poor ventilation in the dormitories. The school is also located in a CSM-prone area.
We fear a lot because of the congested nature, we don't have enough ventilation inside. So the air inside there is not sufficient for all of us. We all breathe the same air in and out, so our health condition is not in good status.
Another issue which is of concern is the presence of a colony of bees hanging on top of the building. Students suffer the sting of these bees daily. But the district chief executive for Lambushi Kani, Bom Kofi Diyaka, stated that they were aware of their concerns and plans were already afoot to fix them.
To solve this problem, I am telling you that His Excellency Your Mama launched a program, a project in Sinyani, which is quality education, and an amount of money is given to the secondary school, Pina Secondary School, so that it will help them to renovate some of the facilities there. It will help them to buy a lot more materials and equipment that will bring learning situation. Let me tell you, this senior high that they are bringing here, at the end of the day is today, and I know they will finish next year by this time. I want to believe that the conjunction in Pina High, Senior High will be reduced because some of the students who would have gone there will be here.
Rafik Salam's report from Pina in the Lambushi Kani district of the Upper West region.
Following the February 6 students' riots at St. Paul Senior High School at Denu and the subsequent police shooting that led to the death of a student, a 7-member committee formed to look into the riots has presented its findings and recommendations. The riots were sparked by accusations that the school authorities were shielding some students said to have been engaged in homosexual activity.
The angry students on the third date are said to have demanded that the school authorities hand over the two students suspected to be homosexuals. The school authorities' refusal, however, further infuriated the students who went on the rampage and destroyed school property. Police officers called to maintain law and order had to fire warning shots resulting in the death of a 17-year-old student. The school was shut down for days until calm was restored. The 7-member committee, which investigated the incident, found out that issues relating to homosexuality in the school have been reported severally to the appropriate authorities, but has not been dealt with conclusively. It identified among the immediate and remote causes of the riot the failure to lock the school dormitories during social gatherings, giving room for immoral acts. The invitation of the police and subsequent shooting of their colleagues, coupled with a power outage at the time, are said to have also aggravated the situation. It recommended that both teachers and students be encouraged to document allegations and submit them to the appropriate authorities for redress. The strict locking of dormitories and classrooms during social gatherings, and regular in-service for security officers. Another recommendation was that all students be treated fairly and equally, and provisions of a standby power plant be made for the school. The 7-member committee says it collated its information from the disciplinary committee members, the housemasters and patrons, some teachers, the school chaplain, the school counselor, the victims of the riot, the SRC patron, and the school's electoral commissioner.
Still to come in the bulletin, we hear the story about how the residents of Ashomang are enjoying improved roads, not made by the government, but by a private contractor. Stay tuned.
Dated in the world of business, and we'll give you an update on the IMF. The country's quest to secure an IMF program by April could be realized. Some of Ghana's development partners have expressed their commitment to assist government meet all the required conditions for the program to take off by the second quarter. While the donors had earlier maintained that they will not extend their support unless Ghana took drastic steps to address problems facing the economy. The IMF team negotiating with Ghana for a fund program is meanwhile expected in town tomorrow. Joy Business gathers that team is likely to review the country's economic data for the last year and finalize the negotiations. Away from the IMF program, the current power crisis is also likely to stabilize and improve from July this year. This is what Joy Business has picked from persons working on the country's power generation and distribution sector. The engineers Joy Business spoke to are basing their prediction on some emergency power generators and ships that should be coming from April this year, as well as a new steam turbine generator that TICO is constructing, which should be connected within the next 3 months. The engineers also argue that they are expecting the water levels at Akosombo Dam to improve from July as the rainy season should set in from June. They, however, blame the current serious nature or shortfall in the country's generation capacity and limited supply in power from neighboring Ivory Coast. Even though government was looking at purchasing some 80 megawatts, it's only getting about 20 megawatts. It says the country needs about 2,040 megawatts of power to adequately meet the load requirements. However, Joy Business gathers that it's currently having about 1,000 megawatts to meet demands of Ghanaians. Well, that should be some good news, but this is not so much of a good news, as there are fears that Ghana's oil and gas industry will soon be hit by job cuts as the price of oil continues to fall on the international markets. Well, crude oil is now selling around $53 per barrel and expected to drop further, a situation which will seriously affect local oil and gas service providers and even the international oil companies. On the commodity markets, crude oil is trading at $62 a barrel. Gold lost a little over $7, is traded at around $1,225 an ounce, and cocoa is still trading at $2,931 a ton. So tomorrow there would be the MPC announcing the policy rate, and analysts ahead of the policy rate announcement by the Bank of Ghana tomorrow are expecting the rate to be maintained in order to stabilize current interest rates. They however want the central bank to refrain from using monetary policy to control inflation, a formula they contend is outmoded. The Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana began a round of meetings to review developments in the economy on Monday, February 16. The meetings to end Wednesday, February 18, is the first in the year and will announce a review in the policy rate, the key rate at which the central bank lends to commercial banks, and by extension, how much the banks will charge on the loans they give out. The MPC at its last meeting in November last year raised the rate from 19 to 21%, a rate analysts explain should be maintained.
I have a high expectation that the Bank of Ghana will maintain the policy rate in the sense that, one, if you raise the policy rate, there is also the tendency that interest rates will go up. And when interest rates goes up, it definitely will crowd the private sector. One key thing that worries me, and I'm sure it worries a lot of economists and analysts, is the use of the monetary policy to control inflation. I think it's an outmoded formula, and the Bank of Ghana should stop it. If you look at the economic challenges that we are facing, government is not employing people. It's the private sector that's doing a lot of employment. If you look at the effect of the energy situation that we have, the power situation that we have on the private sector, where they have gone for high debt, they're using a lot of debt to finance their activities, and therefore the effect of these the higher rates on their operations and all that. If you use monetary policy rates to control inflation, that's what happens.
We haven't seen any changes. Like, inflation is more or less on the same level. The CD has been stable largely against other currencies, and so I don't see a big change there. Okay, but what I think we need to do, and not always to look at the central bank, is that among the players we also need to see how we charge each other when we deposit with each other, because I think the rates are very, very unrealistic these days, and I see a big challenge there.
While some analysts say the ongoing IMF bailout discussions would largely influence the committee's decisions this time around, others contend the program will not change the economic situation overnight.
We should not be over-reliant on the fact that the IMF is going to come and things are going to change overnight. No, the IMF will come with strong conditionalities that could even make things very unpleasant for us as a country. We should not think that IMF will come and make things that easy for us. Government will not be giving a very tight expenditure patterns, okay, and then they will come with stringent, policy directives that might not be very comfortable.
Meanwhile, the Union Savings and Loans Managing Director says the over-reliance on the policy rate must end.
The policy rate is the rate at which banks are expected to borrow or to take money from the central bank, when they are not liquid. However, if you look at the balance sheet of the banking sector, there are more deposits than loans. I think deposits exceed loans by more than 50%, which means that averagely, no bank really usually will go to the central bank to borrow. So that rate really doesn't hit anybody. Okay, so what really hits us are two things: the treasury bill rate, which I agree is high now at an average of 26, and the rate at which we lend to each other.
Abigail Adamakonchi for Joy News.
Now, chop bars and other local eateries will soon be made to pay the Ghana Tourism Development Levy. The levy, which is a 1% charge on all hospitality services, is collected into the Tourism Development Fund, meant to be used to market and promote the sector. But Chairman of the Tourism Authority, Akonudake, says though they have so far collected 9 million cedis, they need a lot more to accomplish their objectives.
One, hotels. There are a number of the hotels. There are a number of restaurants. There are a number of what we call tourism trade associations, like travel and tour agencies. What is the travel and tour agencies essentially? These are the three main categories for now. But there are others in the Act that like, for example, those who are involved in events management or events institutions, for example, that we are bringing on board. And there are a number of such ones. For example, amusement parks, recreational parks, and so on and so forth. Some of the number of the attractions that we go to and visit, they are supposed to charge, this 1% levy. For traditional catering institutions, for example, what you call the chop bars and so on, we are instituting what we call, in discussions with the Ghana Tourism Federation, to institute a lump sum. Because some of them you go and eat, they don't give you receipts and so on and so forth. But we think we are instituting a lump sum that they'll be able to pay, into that. But we are not discussing with the executives, to arrive at this lump sum that we'll be able to apply, across.
The 1% charge on hospitality services such as hotel accommodation and restaurant bills is expected to accumulate into the Tourism Development Fund. Administrator in charge of the fund, Ibrahim Tete, says it is working at roping in as many eateries as possible.
We have each individual establishment data in our system, so we'll be reconciling with what is in the platform with the banks, and we'll get information on them. Then we will come to the individual establishment or the entities and call for their books, the cash book, their related accounts such as the VAT payment, the financial statement, and we reconcile the total of their revenue collection should give us 1% of whatever they will be paying into the platform.
The Tourism Development Fund is expected to provide the resources for the authority to market and promote the activities and services of players in the tourism industry in Ghana.
And that'll be all by way of business. I'm Abigail Adamakonchi. George Adi Jr. comes up next with sports. To stay on.
Right, a lot to talk about in the world of sports, including the Champions League. But we'll start, first of all, with what's happening here in the country. And a lot could change for Wonder Club Accra Great Olympics, who are currently rock bottom of the Ghana Premier League log. And with the signing of some experienced players for the rest of the season, they're expected to do very well. Gorbing Atram is one of 4 former players of Great Olympics making a return to the club. And the former under-17 silver medal winning captain is excited to return to his former side.
I'm already playing. It's just that I'm about to end my career, and I'm supposed to end it in Ecuador, but because of the boys that I've grown, my academy, the white man decided that it's better that I stay back home, not to go to the Ecuador anymore. But it's still in plan. If they change their mind, I'll go. So I decided to help Great Olympics since I've been watching their matches and things are not going on well for them. I've already spoke to them from the beginning before they started league that I really want to help them in playing and as well give them a lot of my boys. But I took the boys there and then they didn't do anything about it. But during the course of the season, things are not going well for them. So they called me and then they spoke to me in a nice way. I said, why not? I'm into football and Olympics is my mother club. Why don't I help? I will help at all costs. So I spoke to Dan and Osei Boatin, and they went to speak to Olele about everything. That's how we came back to Olympics.
A lot to expect from Gordon Atram, but former Asante Kotoko goalie Osei Boating, who featured for the Porcupine Warriors in the League and CAF Champions League between 2000 and 2002, is thrilled to be linking up with his former colleague and mentor Richard Olelekinsing.
Oh, it's good to be home. Home. I call it my home because I started here, so it's always my home. And being back to Accra is also another home where I belong, where I grew up. So it's a fun to be back home, to see the family and playing as well. I've never had the opportunity to watch them this season, but the only time that I watched a game was yesterday. I watched Accra, Suffolk, and they are African, but I have not had the opportunity to see the games of Olympics. But your assessment, that is what the management told me after I came back. We try our best just to be with them and see how best our maturity is going to help. Like, it's an instant decision that the management has made. It needs an instant result. So personally, I'm trying my best to just be on good form before I go into a game.
More in the world of sports, and Morocco has appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport about its expulsion from next two editions of the Africa Cup of Nations. The North African country was banned from both the 2017 and 2019 tournaments for failing to host the 2015 edition. Morocco was also fined $1 million in order to pay $9 million in compensation for pulling out of the last minute, at the last minute due to fears of the spread of Ebola. In the end, it was Equatorial Guinea who ensure that it all worked out for them. So we'll find out what happens with Morocco. And now time to talk about the UEFA Champions League, because the two games currently ongoing, and it's quite interesting to find out how these two teams are just going to be panning out, because there's Chelsea who are hoping to go all the way to win it, and of course there is Bayern Munich who are also playing against Shakhtar Donetsk. Quite tasty stuff getting into all of this. Now time to get into the real scores and what's happening now. And if you're a Chelsea fan, you probably should be smiling. Defenders scrambling in and getting a goal. Chelsea lead by 1-0, and it's really against the run of play. So now have a look at what's happening currently in terms of the score out there. Chelsea lead by 1-0. It was the man Ivanovic who got the goal for Chelsea, and it was quite interesting. It was a free kick, and that way they went about it, the defenders running into it, other than the midfielders, and they got the goal, 1-0. And I have to say that it's really against the run of play, because Paris Saint-Germain is certainly doing a fantastic job down there. Now we can also talk about Shakhtar Donetsk and Bayern Munich. In Ukraine, Shakhtar Donetsk are hoping that they can get some record, at least by beating Bayern Munich, but it's not going too well for them so far. It's goalless between Shakhtar Donetsk and Bayern Munich in the UEFA Champions League. Well, there's still 45 minutes to play, and we're finding out what happens. Chelsea fans remember what happened the last time when they played against PSG. It was pretty 1-0, but ended by losing by 3-1. So there's a lot to expect in that one as well. So that's it for the UEFA Champions League, and we're going to be finding out how all of these things will pan out. Okay then, so UEFA Champions League action then, just wrapping it all. That'll be all for sports. I'm George Adder Jr. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
It is common to hear stories about how members of the public who are frustrated by the inability of government to provide them with electricity, water, roads, and other amenities attempt to meet these needs from their own pockets, so that as many as can afford, especially the middle class, are drilling their own boreholes at home for water, installing their own solar and wind generators for electricity, and erecting their own street lights. But a private firm here in Accra appears to have taken such initiatives to another level by constructing good roads in one of Accra's popular suburbs and charging tolls for the use of these roads. Latif Idris has more.
This stretch of road, according to motorists, was in a terrible state prior to the intervention of Jake Down's company, the private firm. At least now, they are able to drive with much ease, thanks to the work done by the company. Saloon cars pay a toll of 1 Ghana cedi for using the road, whilst trucks and other heavy vehicles pay 2 Ghana cedis. Most of the motorists don't quite have a problem paying these tolls, at least for now. They, however, hope they wouldn't have to do so forever.
The assembly is not doing it. If it is from the head of Deben, we don't know. So if they are taking the money to their pocket, we don't know, but it's not doing anything around here. That's what I can say.
Are you okay with the 1 cedi?
I'm okay with the 1 cedi because they did something I've seen. I have to pay it, so I'm not having problem with paying the 1 cedi.
Okay. Yes, all that I know is they are using it to construct the road for us, especially they rent the steps as a lot, so they use it to buy stones and others to at least to manage for us.
And do you know whether or not they account to the assembly?
I don't know for that. I don't know. I know it's 1 month thing. Okay, I'm not okay, but at least I have to go out. I don't want to be embarrassed too, so I have to pay so that I can get access to roads so that I can go out. Yeah.
The initiative appears to have the blessing of the municipal authorities, who believe Jegdans can go ahead and collect the tolls for a while. The municipal chief executive, meanwhile, says there are alternate routes for motorists who would not want to pay the toll.
We have a road that you can still go without passing through that man's wall. You see, I want it to be established very clear. The road that you see that they've made the culvert was actually on the side of the wall of that person. You see, let's look at the genuineness of it. One felt that, okay, I want to protect my wall. And because of that, he bought gravel, make culvert. And people decide to leave the main road and start using that one. You see, I, for instance, if I don't want to pay, I go by the main road. I don't like shortcuts, you see.
But the pure water road is not a very desirable option.
We face problems here because when it is rain, the water here we cannot pass. At times, we have a different road at the other side, but they give. There's a toll there, you pay money. But sometimes, if you don't have money, you decide to take the risk and pass the water inside like that.
So as it stands, motorists may either have to continue paying Jegdans for improved roads or endure the bumpy ride. But the municipal authorities have not quite abandoned the idea of eventually taking over the roads being rehabilitated by Jegdans.
The assembly should take it, and that's what I'm saying, that when we pay the money of the cover that you have constructed, and then we'll let him dismantle it.
In the meantime, motorists here at Old Ashoman are having to pay tolls for basic infrastructure that the state should have ideally provided from the taxes and the property rates they pay. But never mind, they say, so long as they can enjoy the smooth ride. Latif Idris reporting for Joy News.
And that'll be it for the bulletin. Before we go a quick round through our top stories. President Mahama has removed the Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing from the list of cabinet ministers to satisfy the constitutional clause limiting the number of cabinet ministers to 19. The new Patriotic Party flag bearer will be leading a demonstration against the worsening electricity crisis tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Energy Ministry has been accused of diverting funds meant for a rural electrification project on luxury vehicles. The Northern Peak Ambassador Hotel has been accused of discriminatory policy against women. And residents of Ashomang, a suburb here in Accra, are benefiting from a private initiative to improve roads in their community, even though they have to pay tolls on that. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Israel Lai. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.